Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful tasting of the Virtual Tasting Society. I am Vadim Perlovsky. Today, we're excited to welcome back one of our favorite people. Lauren Patz is here representing Redwood Empire. You are the master blender, correct?
That is correct.
Blending is so important in the industry. We don't give the blenders enough love, and we love blenders. So we're excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. We have six amazing expressions in front of us. I remember the first time we did these, how impressed I was. And now they're older, they're different. We have three new ones to try. So thank you so much for making the time. Thank you for joining us. I see a couple of familiar faces. Welcome back, all my favorite friends. I see a couple of new faces as well. Welcome. If you're here for the first time, thank you for joining us. We are here to get nerdy and learn. If you're going to be doing shots, this is not the group for you, but you are here to taste and learn and ask questions. You're in the right place. Feel free to unmute yourself and participate, but we ask that you stay muted if you're not actively participating, just so we don't talk over each other and we don't have background noise and whatnot. On that, enjoy. And yeah, Lauren, over to you.
Thank you guys so much for having me again. It's been a little bit of time. There has been some changes. I'm excited to kind of go over some of the things that we have, grown into and developed as a distillery. And but one thing remains true throughout all of that, which is I love questions. So feel free to interrupt me at any given time if you want further clarification or if there's anything that you want to cover specifically. I'm happy to answer any and all questions as we go on. So for those of you that might be, I don't know, there's probably someone on here that is their first time experiencing Redwood Empire. So I'm just going to give some brief information about who we are, why you should care, so on and so forth. But we are a Northern California distillery. We are located in the Redwood Empire. So it's a small strip of land that starts right outside of San Francisco at Muir Woods all the way up to the Oregon border. And it's the only place in the world where coastal redwood trees grow. And that's where we get the inspiration from all of our branding. So when we talk about the names of what we're going to be drinking today, like Pipe Dream, Emerald Giant, Lost Monarch, they're the names of individual redwood trees that we have kind of co-opted as part of our story. And a really big part of where we live and who we are. But more importantly, in terms of liquid, it has a huge impact on the finished element during the maturation process. So our climate is very cool. It has a lot of fog in the mornings, and all of that plays a role into how the whiskey interacts with the barrel during that aging process, which is a much softer, much more gentling maturation than areas that are more like Texas or even more traditional bourbon areas like Indiana and Kentucky. So a very different expression in terms of liquid as it's expressed aging wise. We've been distilling since 2015, so just over a decade. In fact, it was just at that 10-year mark that we graduated to a new facility. So we were at a smaller distillery. We were making about 1,000 barrels a year, probably about 4 barrels of whiskey a day. Now we're on a 24-inch Vendome column. We're making about 14 barrels of whiskey a day. I think we did about 2,600 barrels last year, so significantly more than double of what our highest producing year was. We do a blend of purchased and produced liquid, and so you'll taste some of the spirits that we have here are blends of purchased and produced, and some are 100% grain to glass. Happy to go into any and all of that as much as your interest might be. We're super transparent. We just want to make sure that people understand that we're trying to achieve something different. For me, as someone who's been in this industry for almost 15 years, my goal is always to be adding something to the spirits industry instead of always taking from it. And so I really want there to be kind of a point of view, a voice, a differentiation for our products so that there's something exciting and unique. It doesn't necessarily always resonate with everybody, but just like something kind of cool to kind of move forward with. So that's kind of like the nutshell. We do actually, this is good because I want to make sure if you guys are ever up in Northern California, we do finally have a consumer facing component to our business. We have a restaurant, we have a tasting room, we do tours. And one of the things that I'm the most proud of is we now have like a master class series. So I do a fair amount of traveling for Redwood Empire. I get to be with each one of our sales reps in various different states, and I've seen some really incredibly cool educational outlets for them. I mean, this is definitely an excellent one, but like an in-person element to it. And so I just haven't been able to find the same sort of experiences here in Northern California. And so I really wanted to provide something that goes much deeper than just brand knowledge, that really kind of gets to the heart of what it means to be a distiller, what it means to be a blender, what it means to like really engage with the deeper aspects of spirits. And so I started this masterclass program, and we just did the first one. It's a series of 6 different classes, and I'm just super jazzed to be able to do that. And then of course we just started our club. We're not doing shipping right now. It's pickup only, but we just started our club out of our space as well. So if you ever find yourself up this way, please come visit us. It's certainly worth the visit, and yeah, it's a big change. This Purple, which is like our overarching company that owns the distillery, we just sold one of our wine brands, but they also make wine as well. They've never had any sort of consumer component to any of their brands, not on the wine side and not on the spirit side. So this is a completely new endeavor for this company, is to kind of have this hospitality aspect to it. And it's been really fun to kind of see it develop and grow.
And this is because of the distillery purchase we talked about before we hit record, right?
That's right. So Savage and Cook, who I know that you guys have tasted through before, we purchased their distillery right at the end of 2024, and January 2025, we were making whiskey. It was a pretty easy transition. In fact, they were actually making whiskey for us in addition to what we were making ourselves in California for about 2 years before that. So we already had proof of concept, proof of conception of what the system was capable of and what the results of the new make distillate was. So there was a lot of confidence built up already in the equipment and the layout and the infrastructure that was laid there, for sure. Yeah, that's in a nutshell. That is kind of like where we're at and who we are and all of that stuff.
Awesome.
But
And
I
so
think it's. Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna anticipate this question. I think it happens every time. Redwood Empire. No redwoods are used in the aging of your spirit.
No,
Okay.
as long as I can keep that true, I will. Certainly, the marketing side of things and our owner side of things is always kind of asking that question, like, how can we incorporate redwood into the production of things? And the answer is not easily. Redwood as a wood has a different sort of structure than oak does, and it does. First of all, as a barrel, it's not successful. It definitely leaks. It's just like
Oh, you've
very,
tried it.
very rough. Yeah.
And
I mean, well, it
redwoods
used to
are
be
not oak.
redwoods are not oak.
Okay.
No, no, they're sequoias, I believe, is what they are. But ooh, don't chat GPT me. I'm sure they knows more than I do about the different types of species of wood. But what's interesting is we do actually have some data about redwood as containers because in the wine industry, they used them many years ago as like larger fermentation tanks. They didn't really use them for aging. It was just purely for fermentation that they were using them. So some of the much older wineries in this area do have some redwood fermentation tanks, but certainly not any sort of maturation or aging vessels that they have. But of course, there's always adjuncts, you know what I mean? And that's like, look, you just stick a bit of redwood chip in there. And the answer is no. But we have actually somewhat diverged from what our internal philosophy has been for a very long time. So, for the most part, we've been very much about grain forward, grain flavor, like really kind of focusing on finesse and delicacy and really about balance. And you'll taste that for all of the products that we're going to be tasting tonight. But we just recently released a product called Pipe Dream Triple Toasted or Toasted, and that is much more of an exploration on the wood side, totally divergent from what we've done in the past. We are aging it, of course, in the traditional Quercus alba, which is American white oak, but then finishing it into three other different types of wood. So French, Hungarian, and Gariana, which is regional to the Pacific Northwest. And so doing the blending and the balance of those things is quite complicated because, of course, you're not wanting things to just be overwhelming or unbalanced. You're wanting them to kind of come fully into integration and contact with each other. So that's been a fun product for us, certainly, but definitely different from what we've done in the past. Yeah.
Sorry, when you said you guys purchased Savage and Cook, it included the barrels that they already had. I
Yeah,
okay. They did a lot of like wine finishes because of the background, right?
that's correct.
So are you? I won't say how. One, I want to play poker with you. Two, I don't know if you. I don't think you'd love that very much, but it's okay. But I'm just curious. Do you plan on exploring that more because of that, or because you sort of I'm not have to, but like, what are you gonna do
Yeah.
at all? Like,
Um,
what? Curious. Maybe you
the,
want to get to the end, but I'm just sort of curious
these
if
are great. Love it.
inspires you kind of thing.
Happy to answer. The majority of their liquid is in American oak. And then they would finish it into wine finishes, but that's actually a fairly small amount of the overall volume that they had. So what their aging program was, as is most distilleries that do any sort of aging program, is they'll finish in kind of traditional aging methods first. Partly because they have to define it as bourbon or as rye, and there are some restrictions around what that entails and what that means. That you have to meet the standards that are set by the TTB and the BAM list and all of that kind of stuff. So the majority of their liquid was just in kind of traditional American white oak, although their barrels were produced by a wine cooperage. So we have a variety of different cooperages that we've worked with, but they worked a lot with a wine cooperage called Demptos. And that is a difference in charring and toasting and stuff like that, that it didn't have wine in those barrels beforehand. There was some inventory that was finished in wine barrels and then put into IBC totes or plastic totes for blending purposes, but in terms of like ratio is a relatively small volume amount, and we've been able to kind of like figure out what we want to do with that, but it doesn't really play a role in any of our products. What do we want to do in the future with that? I mean, there's been lots of questions and asks about, are we going to do anything with wine finishes? Our very first releases of Haystack, which was our single barrel program, when we were doing things that was 100% sourced with MGP. Last year was the first year that we did 100% our own distillate releases of our single barrel program. And we didn't do any finishes whatsoever, mostly because we kind of wanted to prove that the liquid itself was, competent, worth it, all of that kind of stuff. And so there's a possibility that down the road we might play around with wine finishes, but as of right now, we don't have any serious plans or serious products that are planned with that. But great question. Happy to answer. Honestly, nothing is off the table. I'm happy to answer any question. I'm not scared. But it's been interesting trying to incorporate the Savage and Cook's inventory into what we're using for our own products. I'd say one of the things that I find the most interesting about it from a production perspective is that all of their rye whiskey has corn in it, like a very large percentage of corn, which is very normal, especially when you're talking about like Kentucky rye and things like that. It tends to have a very, very high corn content, because that is really what softens. It gives viscosity. It's very gentle. But Redwood Empire has never used corn in any of their rye whiskeys. And so it's like, where do we put that product? You know what I mean? Like, where does it go? And it's kind of ended up in Lost Monarch, which is our rye whiskey bourbon blend. And it's done a really kind of fun evolution with that product in particular. Yeah.
So, so then with the stock that you purchase, your goal is to blend it into current expressions, not create new expressions.
That's right. Yeah. As of right now, that is the plan, is to kind of use it as part of our overall whiskey inventory and kind of get it into either the core or there was Sargent Cook had a fair amount of Bloody Butcher inventory, and that went into the Pipe Dream 101. So it's being used in a variety of different ways. But yes, that's one of the hardest parts about my job currently, is maintaining a certain level of flavor consistency, but also kind of using some of the elements and inventory that we have in order to support overall volume and bottling. All right. So I think the last time I was here, we tasted the Pipe Dream, the Emerald Giant, and the Lost Monarch. But let's take the two Pipe Dreams side by side for right now. So a Pipe Dream bourbon is over 50% of our sales. So the original kind of core Pipe Dream for us is the true heart of our brand. You know, bourbon is a very safe space for a lot of people. Just recognition wise, bourbon tends to be an easy pick off the shelf, something that there's a lot of confidence in terms of what you're getting. So for all of you, when you're tasting bourbon, what do you expect from bourbon, just in general, not necessarily from our bourbon, craft bourbon, whatever, but from bourbon whiskey? What are your expectations?
Vanilla, molasses, maybe brown sugar, a little bit of baking spice, depending
Mm-hmm.
on the age, some wood notes.
Yeah. Anybody?
And Jordan doesn't even like bourbon.
I've actually, it's my
Fair
first
enough. Yeah. I mean, with bourbon, there's two things that every bourbon should have, in my opinion, and they all stem from the raw material. And because it's coming from corn, I think to myself, like, what other types of things do we get from corn as a raw, ingredient? One is corn syrup, right? You should expect a level of sweetness in bourbon because that's just inherent in corn in and of itself. And the second is viscosity. There's also a lot of oil in corn. And so you should have that very soft, viscous texture to it. Texture is very critical for bourbon, 100%. And so for me, those are built-in protections and tend to be why people have an easier time shifting into the world of whiskey via bourbon, is because there's a sweetness, there's a softness, there's a viscosity, there's a lot of elements that are playing in that space of safety when people get into higher proof alcohol. So bourbon is, of course, a great launch pad for people who are kind of like making that step from beer and wine into spirits and into whiskey. But again, our focus is a little bit less on barrel, a little bit less on that whole kind of like vanilla aspect of it. And we're really focused on the aromatics that happen during fermentation and also the raw materials. But the Pipe Dream is a blend of purchased and produced liquid. It is, we like to say, a rule of fours. So it's a blend of 4 to 14-year-old spirit. So there's 4-year-old, there's 6, 8, 10, 14. It's usually only even numbers. That's just kind of how it works out in terms of pulling inventory, but also, again, kind of providing that consistency. And it's also a blend of 4 states. So it's California, which is our own distillate. It's Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee liquid that's in there. And then 4 grains. So, of course, bourbon has to be majority corn, but there's also rye, wheat, and malted barley in there. So a lot of complexity, a lot of depth. But our goal is not to be overwhelming. The goal is to have kind of like this very approachable softness to it. Really, really, truly, the goal is easy drinking. The price point of this product is supposed to be easy. The drinking of it is supposed to be easy. This is like what you take on a camping trip and you don't even worry about drinking the whole bottle. It shouldn't be stressful in any way, shape, or form. Cheers. What do you think?
One of the things that's always impressed me with, especially like, I don't want to say your lower priced products, is I get no like youth.
Mm-hmm.
I get usually for a younger distillery, which I would think of you still as a younger distillery.
Sure.
When you get something priced like this, you're like, oh, that might be good in like 4 years. And that never enters my mind. And, so I'm sure that has something to do with, I'm sure it has a lot to do with your skills as a blender and what you're doing. But it always impresses me that for the price, for what it is, for, a flagship entry, that I'm just like, yeah, all right. Like, I don't have to worry. I'd like to see what else there is, but I don't have to jump this one. It's pretty great as is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, for me, like when we're talking about young bourbon or young whiskey in general, it usually is an overpowering, like wood component. It's like pencil shavings, you know what I mean? Like fresh cut wood. It's just a little bit more aggressive and not quite as integrated, right? And some people like that flavor profile, honestly. Some people like younger whiskeys because they appreciate and enjoy that flavor profile. But for me, I think it can sometimes lack depth and character and like texture in particular. I feel like can be not quite as developed at those younger ages. So it's been tricky. I'd say the biggest difference between maybe the first time that we tasted Pipe Dream versus this time is the components that we're using in it. So this is shifting from majority MGP to a more Bardstown that we're using in this. We also, are still using a little bit of Dickel. The percentage that we're using is increasing as well from our own distillate, but our goal is at least philosophically to kind of like keep the integrity of that flavor true to each batch of it. But because of what we're doing blending wise, we have so many different mash bills, we have so many different distilleries, we have so many different cooperages, we have so many different ages. Our goal isn't always to be like exactly the same every single time, but it's to kind of hit that intellectual mark each time. Like, what are we going for here with this blend? We're going for grain forward. We're going for accessibility. We're going for a very specific kind of like flavor palette with a lot of these spirits. And I think that we've, for the most part, been fairly successful in doing that. Some of that comes from, spreadsheeting, and some of that comes from, sensory analysis, but it is absolutely a combination of both of those things. What'll be really fun, I hope you guys have at least 2 glasses in front of you, is to taste the Pipe Dream right next to the Pipe Dream 101. I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that the Pipe Dream 101 is the same compositionally as the original Pipe Dream. And it's only the proof that's different, but that's not true. we didn't do any sort of marketing release about the Pipe Dream 101, so there's less information out there about it. But the Pipe Dream 101 is more kind of like, I would almost say like a distiller's select. So Pipe Dream 101 has more of the components that Jeff, our master distiller, and I love the most that are included in Pipe Dream. So it has more as twice as much of our own distillate in it. And in terms of cutoff age, it is older. So the very lowest age that's in there is 5 year instead of 4 year. And it's just a completely different blend than what the Pipe Dream is. And I think that that's not necessarily communicated through some of the, marketing aspect, to some of the branding aspects. It's not just the fact that it's at a slightly higher proof. It's a completely different composite of liquid. And I find it to have more richness to it. That's the big difference between the two. I'd say Pipe Dream, the original, has this very light, airy, easy drinking element to it. And the Pipe Dream 101 is much richer, not just in terms of texture, but in terms of flavor. So instead of, maybe some of these fun fruity notes that are coming across from Pipe Dream, the Pipe Dream 101 has more of like this sticky toffee pudding. You know what I mean? Some of this kind of like burnt sugar components to it that is totally separate from what the original is. I don't know. What do you
Yeah,
guys?
I get a big candy corn vibe in the 101.
Totally.
It's I was gonna say the first one, the regular, is just it's very easy sipping and
Right.
really delicious and smooth caramel. And then you sip the 101 and it's wow, like the candy corn explodes in my mouth. It's really delicious and mouth coating and strong and really nice.
Paul, you
I'm gonna.
also have barrels behind you.
Yes. Oh, I live here. This is my living room.
Gotcha.
I got like a what I want to say tiramisu, but that's not the right stuff. Creme brulee. There it is. Creme brulee.
Tiramisu is my favorite dessert, so like I wouldn't have hated it. I would have
That's what
figured
was
out a way
sticking
to
in my
make
head
that
at
work
first, but
for
no,
me.
it's very creme brulee. You've got a little bit of that caramel underneath,
Yes,
that sugar, but you also have just a hint of the char from the flame. It's very good.
totally. Yeah, definitely. It has kind of like a crisp. There's some, some fire, some heat in terms of the treatment on the barrels and kind of like how that comes through into the finished product. Definitely. I mean, it is higher proof as well, but to be honest, this sips almost easier to me than the 90 proof Pipe Dream. I mean, it's not a crazy separation between the two of them in terms of what proof that they're at, but there's just so much richness to the Pipe Dream 101 that it totally changes how it expresses and feels in your mouth as opposed to the original Pipe Dream. Yeah.
Even on the nose, they smell different, they taste different. They're
Right.
very different. But why did you decide to call them the same name, essentially? Why not
Boy,
call it just a
don't
different
I
name?
wish I was on the marketing team. I mean, I find that this one, more than anything else that we have going on, is the most difficult because I think that there is a lot of misunderstanding about what this product is. Communication wise, I feel like we could have done a much better job about like what even is this product, why you should care about it, what it's worth, like all of that kind of stuff. Even if they just called it Pipe Dream Distiller Select, I feel like would have been more communicative. I don't want to like knock us the entire time, but I don't know if people. I mean, I've done a lot of tastings, and there's just a lot of confusion around this product in particular, and why there should be value associated with it, and why I think this is within that like $50 price point versus the like $30-ish price point that the original Pipe Dream is at. And, you got to give people something as to what the explanation is between that. And for us,
it definitely feels like a higher end bottle
thank
compared
you.
to the first.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And also, I think, again, not to knock your marketing team, but if you didn't attach it to Pipe Dream at that $30 threshold, it's an easier sell at 50 of just a standalone new product. Because your other products, right, the Van Duzen and the other stuff's like $80. So
Yeah.
they're not unfamiliar with that price category.
Right.
So coming out with a new product that's different, has a new name, and is $50, cool, all day long. It's to your point exactly, like why is it to have the same name essentially, but tastes totally different and costs almost double? But this is amazing. As everyone else has said, this tastes great. This is well worth it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think the idea was to kind of like reinforce and expand upon Pipe Dream as a brand, and kind of like, because that is such a powerful product for us. You know what I mean? My assumption is like the goal would be to kind of like grow that and deepen people's understanding and appreciation for Pipe Dream instead of like Redwood Empire or whatnot. But I do think that with Pipe Dream 101, it's been a tough one because, you know, I always want to over communicate what something is. And I just like I just want people to know like what they're getting themselves into. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be a mystery or a surprise in any way. But these are really fun to taste side by side because you know, you can say you like one more than the other, but the important part for me as a maker is like, what is the intention? What is the purpose? What is the price point? What is the value associated with each one of these products? And for all of you, you know, experts, you know, in tasting and whatnot, you can understand more like what we're doing on the production side in order to add value, to kind of like really enrich what we're doing on both sides, and directionally why we would make some of the decisions that we did. Yeah. All right, let's get into some of my, you know, favorite. I do enjoy bourbon, but to be honest, I'm much more of a rye girl at heart. I love rye whiskey desperately.
Are you still playing around with new grains? I think you were the one who originally put us onto, what was it?
Triticale. Yeah.
We literally, I sought out distilleries after our tasting with you that had it as part of their lineup.
Yeah.
Dragonfly.
We do. One of the actually, so we're not going to taste any of them tonight, but one of the Grizzly Beast, which is our bottled and bond bourbon, which is absolutely different every single year, had triticale in it. So we've already released one product that had triticale in it. But every year I make something with triticale, and every year I make a wheat whiskey. So there definitely will be products like that. I'll tell you some of the really, really cool stuff that we have coming up, because there's one that's going to be coming out this summer that I'm just like, I can't even explain to you how excited I am about it, because it's so weird and so cool. And so just like, there's nothing else out there like it. In fact, actually, I would love it if you could tell me another product that is doing the same thing that we're going to be doing this summer, because I'd love to taste it, but I have not been able to find anything else that even comes close to what we're going to be doing for our next release.
I know it's soon, but I will put it on the recording now. If you want to do a red carpet release with us, we're happy to do it. But
happy to do it.
I'm already booking like July and August, but we'll find space and make it happen if you want to.
Perfect.
Let me know.
Yeah. Excellent. Perfect. So the next in the lineup, I know, is kind of a little bit of a step back in terms of proof, but it is the Emerald Giant, right? Is that what I said next? I hope so. Okay, good. Thank God. Thank you. So the Emerald Giant, this is the difference between Jeff Duckhorn, our master distiller, and I. When we do tastings together, this is the one huge differentiation between us. He always does the Lost Monarch second, which is our blended whiskey, and I always do the Emerald Giant second, which is our rye whiskey. And I choose that because I want people to like really understand in some way what the components are that are going to be going into the blend, as opposed to just the rye concentration gradient, which is what he does, which makes sense. He comes from an accounting background. And so like, he's like, oh, percentages, people will get it. And that's the goal here for us. But I kind of like that we do things differently. That's why if either one of us is doing the tasting, it kind of gives a different flavor to it. But I think both of us, we love Emerald Giant. We have a lot of passion for rye whiskey in general. And our goal with it is to really, again, make something much more approachable than what the industry standard is. So industry standard for rye whiskey still is something that is more astringent, slightly more aggressive, more tannic. It's much more focused on sensation than it is about flavor. So we really, really want to make the flavor portion of this product the star. And that is almost like this medicinal, very tea-like, very, sometimes it comes across as umami, not necessarily in this rye product, but in some of the other ryes that we make. And I love it. I love it. I love Emerald Giant. Of the core three of the Pipe Dream, Emerald Giant, and Lost Monarch, just at the 90 proof, I'd say Emerald Giant is my favorite of the three. It has a very like Earl Grey element to it, almost like a sweet alfalfa note. There's some hay in there. And just a really fun way to kind of experience rye whiskey that isn't always as approachable, because you're so like taken back by like how aggressive it can be on your palate, which again, for some people is what they're looking for in a rye whiskey. Just like some people are like all about the hot sauce and they just want to feel that pain. This is much more restrained than that. And our goal is to kind of go a little bit deeper flavor profile wise.
I got lots of vanilla on that, and I think you really hit it on the head when you said that it was almost medicinal. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I drank that, I felt like I was transported to like a sitting parlor in front of a fire in the middle of winter. It felt very peaceful almost,
Mm-hmm.
is the best way that I can describe it. It was very tasty, but you're right. The feel of that drink was friendly, I think is the best way that I could describe it.
Oh, you couldn't have described it better to me, to be honest. I always say that our Emerald Giant is a rye whiskey for people who've been hurt by rye in the past. And it's very much supposed to be kind of like this embracing, this inviting flavor profile, as opposed to something that just kind of like punishes you, because sometimes rye whiskey can be punishing, and not a bad way, just in like a intense way. Yeah.
Would you
So
categorize this under like a traditional style? Because I don't feel it's like Pennsylvania or Maryland or Kentucky or Indiana. Or do you just like you're just like I'm making something I like. I don't fucking care what you
it's
call it, which is totally a fine
California
answer.
style. No,
Yeah.
but in terms of mash bill, this is a very high rye. I mean, this is 90% rye at least. It's the mash bills that go into this blend are between 90 and 95% rye. And then there is wheat and malted barley in there. But I mean, it's very minimal. It is a very rye forward product. And so this softness is coming partially from aging here in California, where again, we were talking about how mild it is in Northern California, just much softer in how flavor is extracted from wood here, as opposed to certainly from Texas, but also from, Indiana and Kentucky. It's just different stylistically. When we talk about terroir, usually what we're talking about is aging climate more than we're talking about raw ingredients. And so we're just embracing that. We're not trying to go more intense or more aggressive. We're really, really focused on like, we want people to drink rye whiskey. And so this is an excellent kind of like introductory, very, very welcoming, embracing products that you could introduce people to rye whiskey with. Absolutely. But all three of these. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, did someone say something?
For the older folks, it reminds me of Nico wafers, the candy, which
Yeah.
would be weird.
There's a little bit of that tingly, you know what I mean? Just a little bit of like the tingly sensation, but not so much that it is like distracting from experiencing the actual flavor of what's going on in the whiskey. Yeah. I know. I'm a huge fan. I love rye. I think part of the reason why I'm such a rye fan is the fact that there is no true standard. So with bourbon, 9 times out of 10, you're in a safe space. It has that richness, it has that sweetness, it has that gentleness, and there may be some variations, minor variations in terms of flavor and expression and style. But with rye, the spectrum is so much wider. It's like, how is it going to come across? Like, what is this approach? All of that kind of stuff. It just seems to be much more drastic and exciting in that way.
I want to add that one of the things I like about rye, when it's done a certain way, you get sweetness and savoriness with it, which is very different from what you get on a bourbon. I mean, it can be sharp, it can be edgy, it can be spicy. That's what a lot of rye is driven towards. But I like the sweet and savory part as well, and chewy part. And this has expressions of all of them, but more of the sweet savory stuff, which I like.
So I couldn't agree more. One of the bottled and bond ryes that we released this year, the Rock Top 005, we released, and there was a real umami component to it. So one of the tasting notes that I gave was chanterelle mushroom and brisket. It had this like smokiness, it had this meatiness to it that was really special, and that's what I think is like very cool. When you can get it out of rye, you really have to kind of coax it out of it instead of just like aggressive.
What's the name of that release you got coming out?
So that was last year. That was the Rocket Top and Batch 005. Yeah. One of the things that I think people don't really understand about Redwood Empire's Bottled and Bond program is the fact that each year is totally different. Not only in terms of mash bill, but in terms of flavor profile. And one of the things that they've kind of tried to do in order to represent that is have a different bottle tube. So there's different artwork for each year now. So they had the artwork for last year, and then moving forward, they'll have different artwork for each individual year to help kind of instill that idea that they're not the same thing. Can't tell you how many times I've like tasted people on a brand new release of Bottled and Bond, and they're like, "Oh, I've had that before," and I was like, I can guarantee you've not had this before because it literally just came out of the distillery. And they're very different. So one of the classes that I did at the distillery at the end of last year was a vertical flight of 4 different years of our Bottled and Bond. So we tasted through different releases of our Bottled and Bond product, and that was really incredible for people to kind of have the opportunity to touch each one of those different releases and understand that that's what we're doing with our Bottled and Bond program. It's not about consistency for us. It's about like, this is where we get to be a little bit more expressive, a little bit more creative.
What's interesting to me is I like this and I like rye, but at least when it's hitting me tonight, if I was doing this as a blind and you're saying, guess what this is, it would take me, I don't know how many guesses we get for me to get to rye. And I know I would guess something finished before I just guessed rye. And I'm not saying that's negative because, again, I really like it. And I think based on some of the other stuff, I think it's the wheat component. I don't recall having a lot of ryes with wheat in it at all. I mean, most of it's 95.5, but even the stuff that's not, I'm just racking my brain for another one with wheat. And I think that sort of doughy bread wheat thing is kind of doing something throughout on my palate that I like. That is the thing that's like making my brain go, what is this? What do you
for sure.
But yeah, in a really great way.
No, I mean, I think probably the last time I was here, I was talking about how much I love wheat. I love wheat. Wheat is one of my favorite grains to work with, 100%. And the reason why I like it in rye in particular is that it helps kind of soften and cut some of the things that can be distracting about rye without overwhelming them. So that's my big hard line with corn in rye is that corn is so powerful, so overwhelming, so textural that if you add it to your rye recipe, it really transforms it into something different, in my opinion. And so using wheat is kind of like that softener without it like detracting from a lot of the flavor components from rye. So we have changed our rye mash bill. It used to be 90%. So our internal mash bill, like when we're making rye internally, it's 90% rye, 5% wheat, 5% malted barley. And we've really played with that. So now it's like 85% rye, 10% wheat, 5% malted barley to just kind of give it just a hint of that more softer aspect. I mean, wheat, I can't get enough of. I can't tell you how much I love wheat. I love wheat to the end and back. If I would just drink wheat whiskey for the rest of my life, I'd probably be happy. But it gives it almost like an acidity that that rye doesn't typically have. It has kind of like this apricot stone fruity note to it when you do it the right way. And that really kind of elevates the whole experience on the rye side of things.
And I'm very sorry if you said this and I missed it, but is this a blend also, or is this 100% yours, or where are we
This
with
is a blend. So the three, the three core, which is the Pipe Dream, the Emerald Giant, and the Lost Monarch, those are all blends of purchased and produced whiskey. The last two that we're going to taste tonight, the Devil's Tower and the Van Duzen, those are 100% distilled in-house. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of the Emerald Giant. I love it. And I don't know. I just like it because it does kind of open that door to rye whiskey as a category for a lot of people who've kind of written it off in the past. Yeah. All right. So to round out the core trio is the Lost Monarch. So that's a rye bin. That is a 55% rye whiskey blend for 45% bourbon whiskey. So there's a lot of it's the most complex blend that we do. It's not a blend of the Pipe Dream and the Emerald Giant. It's a different blend altogether. So this is the minimum age is actually a little bit younger. We use some 3-year-old rye in this blend, but then it does go all the way up to 14 again. So the reason why we're using slightly younger rye is to make sure that it can pop through some of that bourbon that is there, and you actually taste the rye component that is present. I'd say that the Lost Monarch tends to be what plays the best on premise, so like at bars and things like that. I think we have less competition in the blended whiskey space. It also is very versatile for cocktails. You can use it in a bourbon cocktail or a rye cocktail. People might be surprised, but there's always the question of like, well, which whiskey do you make that is your favorite? And I always say there's a difference between what's my favorite and what I drink the most of. And the product that I drink the most of is not the Lost Monarch as you guys are tasting it, but the cask strength Lost Monarch. That's what I'd say I drink every day. That's literally what's in my cup right now. Is the cask strength Lost Monarch. I go through like a bottle of that a week. Boy, that kind of makes me sound like an alcoholic, but it's just because I'm acclimated to drinking.
It's for science. It's for science. It's research purposes.
I definitely don't have a problem. I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me.
You're supposed to eat your own dog food as a distiller, I think, right?
If you're not willing to drink your own juice, then like, what's the point? Like, why even be in this industry?
Literally part of the job.
For sure.
Right. And you're preaching to a bunch of people who are thinking the same thing, but it's not our job.
Yeah.
Fair.
And may have bottles and bottles sitting underneath their desk that they work at. So there's
Okay.
that.
I appreciate all the support. I'm for it. But certainly the Lost Monarch is probably what I drink the most of just on my own because it's just so easy. You really do get that best of both worlds. There's like this nice kind of creamy nose, very soft, very gentle. And then on the palate, it's almost like fireworks. I'd say this one feels the most rye, even though the Emerald Giant is significantly more in terms of percentage of raw material rye. This has kind of like that pop rock fireworks sensation to it that gives you the tingles on your palate. That might be like more representative of what we all find familiar about rye. And that can be, sensationally very fun.
Do you sell the cast strength version of Lost Monarch?
Yes. Yeah. They all have a cask strength version, and all of the cask strength is every day now. So you should be there shouldn't be any difficulty in getting it.
And the cast strength version is, unlike the 101, the cast strength version is the actual thing, just at higher proof.
Correct. Yeah. So there's a cask strength version for the original Pipe Dream, the Emerald Giant, and the Lost Monarch. And in terms of composition, in terms of the liquid, identical. They're just non-diluted for bottle proof. So they're in between like 115, 116. So not like, crazy like 130, but they're enough to like hold up in a cocktail. For those of us who do a fair amount.
Locally, I think the Pipe Dream cask is easily defined here in LA, but I don't think the Lost Monarch cask is that easy. So would you agree with that? It's not distributed as well to LA?
It's really interesting because the Pipe Dream, I think that people are more willing to bring on the bourbon as opposed to something like a blended whiskey. Because for the most part, blended whiskeys require a little bit more effort in terms of a sales pitch and like a little bit more conversation about like what this product is, as opposed to bourbon, which again, I feel like when people see a label and it says bourbon on it, even if they don't know what bourbon means, they're like, oh, I know that word. You know what I mean? I know that it means, that it's something delicious. So there might be more Pipe Dream cask strength on the shelf, but the Lost Monarch cask strength is just as available. It just might not be that they've decided to take it and actually put it on the shelf. So if you want it, it is absolutely available. Yeah. I'm not kidding. I drink a significant amount of that, no doubt. But it's funny, a lot of people are like, oh, I would just sip on the cask strength and I would, mix the, regular stuff. And I'm literally the opposite. When I'm drinking neat, I almost always drink the core. And when I'm drinking mixed, like in a cocktail or whatever, I'm usually drinking cask because I love cask in a cocktail because I know I'm going to taste the whiskey in it. I'm going to taste that ingredient in it instead of having it be eclipsed by, whatever else is in that cocktail.
I happen to be looking online, and we have a local store here that has all three of the cask strengths in stock. And that's a place called High Proof in Fullerton. Just for those of you who might want to know.
I'm actually going to be in LA in 2 weeks. I'm doing a market trip down there in a couple of weeks. So I'll make sure that I'll endeavor to get Lost Monarch on every on every shelf that I experience.
High Proof is a great store. It's a little bit of a drive from LA proper, but it's great. I have a lot of good scotches too. I met the owner. He's a nice guy.
Cool.
As far as
go ahead. Whoever.
As far as where you are in production since purchasing Savage Cook, you mentioned that their rye, because of that high corn content is going into that. Are we tasting that now, or is it not yet in the production line for us to be tasting it? I don't know that I would know the difference. I guess I'm just sort of curious. I
So
know I wouldn't know the difference. I'm just sort of
yeah,
curious.
for the Lost Monarch in particular, I don't know what lot you guys are drinking literally tonight. I don't know what the bottle lot is that you are drinking, but odds are that you are drinking some of the Savage and Cook that is in there. That would be my guess. Because California tends to pull through a little bit faster than the rest of the states. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. That being said, again, math comes into the equation here, and the percentage of the raw materials we're keeping the same. So even though some of the rye has a higher corn content in it, we're balancing it out with the other ingredients. And the goal truly is to be as consistent as possible with the core three. So even if we're using different ingredients or sourcing from different places or using more of our own distillate or whatever, the goal is to be as kind of like consistent as possible with those three products, as opposed to just kind of like throwing whatever into them. We really kind of like want to maintain that confidence in each one of those products specifically. So it's more than likely that there is some of the Savage and Cook in what you're tasting. Again, I don't have the specific bottle lots that you guys are drinking tonight, so I can't say with 100% in certainty, but definitely for like the past year, we've been adding that in, and so it probably will make its way. But I think it's actually enhanced it. Like it has given it better texture, better kind of like base in order to build the flavor on overall. We taste every lot, we taste every bottling before it actually goes into bottle. So my job, my like scope of work each day has changed fairly significantly. So instead of just running day-to-day operations on the floor, which I do, so I run all of our distilling, I do all of our ordering, I run all of our production team, all of that stuff. That's my responsibility. Not only am I doing that, though, I'm also making sure that logistically all of the barrels are where they need to be for harvesting and for tasting, for proofing, all of that kind of stuff. So it's very complicated, and at the same time you just have to like make sure that you really have like what is the core flavor, what is the core value of each one of these products, so that you can kind of like maintain the trueness of each one of those, the integrity of each one of those products. But again, odds are you are tasting some of that Savage and Cook distillate in what you're tasting right now for the Lost Monarch in particular.
The Lost Monarch tasted the spiciest to me. Is it just me, or is that by design?
It's by design, 100%. It's the trickiest. Similar to our single barrel lot, so like our single barrel, the Haystack Needle, the high rye bourbon actually tastes much spicier than the rye whiskey does of that single lot. And similarly within the Lost Monarch, that's why we're using a little bit of that younger rye. It's because we want that spice. You know what I mean? We know that the bourbon is enough to kind of tame it back from it being overwhelming. But to be honest, I think the Lost Monarch is like the only SKU that we do that kind of leans a little bit more in traditional rye whiskey, where it gives it a little bit of that astringency, a little of that puckering nature to it. But it is, again, it's all about balance, right? It's about finding that kind of unique balance between enjoyment and, you know, a little bit painful. You want it to be just towing that line between the two things for sure. But certainly,
hearing you talk about this at cast strength, I mean, I can't even imagine now, especially with your endorsement. I mean, the cast strength of this has to be amazing.
I think so. But everyone's palate's different. But I think so. So for the core, like I said, for the core, I think the Emerald Giant, hands down, is my favorite. For the cask strength versions of them, I think the Lost Monarch by far is the best. But like each tier, I have a different preference to it. And just, proof has such a dynamic impact on how we perceive flavor. And what we can interact with on our flavor and our taste buds, but also our olfactory. And so it's just like a completely different experience based off of what the concentration is.
Given that you're going for that spicier note, is there your wheated rye component in the Lost Monarch or no? Because that would run counter to it. I'm just curious.
Very little in there, but there is some in there. Yeah, a lot of that higher wheat content rye is going into other products of ours. It's not really allocated to this product in particular. Yeah, it's a good question. I love questions.
And if we wanted to do a side by side of like old release Lost Monarch and new release Lost Monarch, how would we be able to tell the batches apart? Because I'm looking at the label of what we tasted today, and I don't see a definitive like batch 47 or whatever. Is it on the back? Is there a way to tell, or is it just there isn't?
There is. There should be on the bottle, there should be a laser code on it. So it won't be on the label. It won't be on anything like that. It should just be on the glass. It'll either be etched on the glass or printed on the glass, and it'll say the date that there we go. Someone put the date on there, 2025, it looks like. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
how do we decode that?
Well, you can send it to me. And I'll decode it, and I can tell you, like, I have the blend sheet for it. Like, I have all the details for each individual blend that we do. All of our blends trend, slightly different, but the goal is that difference isn't drastic, isn't dramatic, isn't even honestly perceptible for most people, right? Like, our goal isn't to just be like shocking, like to be batch by batch, right? Like, the goal is absolutely a certain level of consistency, but just due to the nature of how we make products, which is honestly an incredible endeavor in blending, there's literally no one I know who does whiskey production the way that we do it, which is just like this very, very, very complex blending structure. And so I'm happy, if you guys ever have like a lot code on those bottles that you want to know more information about, of course, I'm happy to expand upon them in the very specific nature of each one of those individual lots, because we have all of that information recorded. But they do kind of trend differently just based off of the different lots that we're using. Even if they're lots from the same distillery, from the same recipe, they're slightly different from each other, right? They're not always going to be identical to each other. We do always taste through every lot. We make sure that it is able to kind of like support that consistency. But there is a slight evolution kind of like as it flows through its existence, no doubt. But yeah, it wouldn't be on the label, although the label changes a lot. I'd say the big change that we made on the Lost Monarch in particular is that previously it used to say American whiskey, and now it says a blend of bourbon and rye whiskeys. Both are true, but the reason why it says a blend of bourbon and rye whiskeys is because it kind of, again, opens up an appreciation and understanding of what the components are on the inside, and gives a little bit more insight for a consumer to understand what the composition of that liquid is.
That update makes sense after the ratification of American single malt. If there's no single malt in there, then just the overarching American whiskey. I would want some malt in there. Any malt in the works?
I mean, there's malt in everything. There's malt in all of that. There's not malt whiskey, but there's literally malt in all of these mash bills. The Foggy Burl is our American single malt. We released it several years ago. So we do have several releases of an American single malt. It is very different than any other American single malt I've ever tasted. We make it on a column still. We make it with brewer's malt instead of distiller's malt. So it's like very, again, kind of like reinforcing that grain forward flavor profile, but it's absolutely not like international single malt. We've gone hard down this new world approach towards single malt, and it has a lot of chocolate in it, a lot of baking spice in it. It's just very, very different than a lot of other single malt that's coming out. Yeah.
Just as you said that, I realized we tasted it last time.
Did we? Okay. Yeah.
I insisted on it because I was on a big American single malt kick.
Oh, American single malt. Here's a couple. I probably asked you this question before when we were tasting it before, but now I feel like we've all had a different level of understanding and appreciation for the category because, to be honest, until last year, it wasn't technically a category. So 2025 is when it's officially recognized as a spirit category. But I'd love to hear some of your guys' like favorite American single malts because honestly, I still haven't had one that's like blew me out the water. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, everybody should be working towards this flavor profile. So go for it.
I'll do you one better. When you come to LA, I'll pour you 10 different samples for you to try. There's some brands that I absolutely love that I have more bottles than any person should have. I'm just that one brand. But yes, we're gonna go visit one in Seattle too. There's a lot of good brands.
Westward,
Copperworks.
I know them very well. And I've had a lot of their American single malt. I don't know. I maybe it's just not the right spirit category for me. Maybe that's just like not my jam. It
also depends on the person, right? Like we have a member who's a huge Westward fan, but he's also a bourbon fan, so that makes sense because bourbon, right? They're doing new Chardo. I've realized with American single malt because it's so broad.
Yes.
I tend to like my malts as they are made in Scotland. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's Virginia, it's Copperworks, and it's Cedar Ridge, right? If you want a more Americanized palate, then you're gonna want Westward and a few others, right? Yeah. So like it depends on what you like, but there is amazing stuff out there.
It's tricky. Yeah, it's tricky. I think that there is no like this is directionally the flavor profile to go with it yet, and that's exciting, but it's also just like hard for consumers, right? I mean, like knowing what you're going to be getting in terms of a flavor profile, it's just not there with American single malt. You're really, I mean, in my opinion, taking a risk every time you buy a bottle of American single malt. And the price point on American single malt is high. It's not super affordable. I mean, depending on, again, what your income is, all of that kind of stuff. But in terms of like bourbon or rye, it tends to sit quite a bit higher than both of those things. So it's interesting.
You're absolutely right. I agree 100% with everything you just said.
Love that.
We as Americans have made the category broad enough so where everybody can have their own, like we're accommodating everybody's spectrum, but for the consumer, it makes it so difficult to like, hey, what does it actually mean? And it's like, well, it can be anything as long as it includes malted barley. Well, okay, but what does it actually taste like? Well, depends on who you buy it from. And it makes it difficult for like, there's no standardized version.
It's so young. You know what I mean? It's such a young category for us here. And I think that there's a lot of misconception just about the terminology and the words that are used to describe it. So it'll get there 100%. I'm excited to see the direction that it goes, to be honest. But for right now, there's no one brand, there's no one flavor profile that is really like truly leading the way in terms of what it means to be an American single malt.
I think the most amazing thing about it is how Vadim turned a bourbon and rye tasting into a single malt tasting. It was just a magic trick where he like took bourbon and rye tasting, like single malt, and it was like, what? How did that happen?
Welcome, Jordan.
Yeah, that was
I know this
weird.
is exactly what you signed up to listen to.
I was like, oh, good, finally, single malt.
Well,
Can
not
I share?
to. Oh, go
Can I
ahead.
share with you something really weird? I mean, a friend introduced me to this, and it blew me away. This is let me get it to the camera. Balcones,
Oh,
4 year,
balcony. Yeah.
peated, single malt,
Hmm.
and the flavor. Okay, it's a single malt, but it's Texas flavor. But
Yeah.
it blew me away at just how much it offered. It was weird.
Yeah. I we have some peated. I've used peated before. You have to have like a very deft touch with how much peated that you're using because it's such an aggressive flavor. Honestly, similar to how it is with like chocolate malt. It's so intense in how it impacts the final result. And I haven't had that product in particular, but Balcones in general has like a very specific vision and expression for their flavor palette, certainly. But yeah, there's some really interesting stuff out there. I'd say it's the most interesting category for me. I wouldn't say it's like the most delicious category for me, but it is definitely the most interesting category for me. Yeah. All right. So we'll move on to the Devil's Tower, which is 100% our own distillate. So this is distilled in house, all that good stuff. This is a high rye bourbon. So still technically a bourbon, but it is a significantly high portion of rye in that mash bill. So legally, of course, bourbon has to be a majority corn, 51% corn. I think this one, you have batch 003. Is that right? Is that accurate?
Jane.
I only ask the,
Let me check
yeah.
my records.
Yeah.
1 second. I have a photo pulled up. Batch. Which one are we looking at? Devil's Tower is
Devil's Tower.
003. Correct.
Okay, 003. So this I think is like 38% rye. The very first release that we did was a single lot of our very high rye bourbon. So the first release that we did, 001, was like 51% corn, 45% rye, and then a little bit of wheat and malted barley. And so this has a slightly higher portion of corn because it does have some of our, typical mash bill, which is like 72% corn with like 18 to 20% rye and then wheated and then malted barley. So this has a little bit more influences from those other grains in it, but I think it still stays very true to what we're trying to do, which again is to like elevate rye as a grain and have it be present in a lot of these. And in order to like really support that rye, this spirit is at 99 proof. So at that higher proof, you really get more volatilization. You get a little bit more, that tingling, a little bit more of the intensity on the palate to kind of give the rye element an exclamation point or an underlining or a bold font or whatever, however you want to see it. Because that's really the goal with this product is to emphasize that secondary grain and see how it interacts and supports, bourbon as a whole as a category. But industry standard for high rye bourbons these days is around 20%. So this is pretty significant above that.
This is fantastic. That's not a tasting note. It's just fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a big, risk. It's a big vulnerability from going from like purchased and produced whiskey into 100% your own distillate. And, we really do try to be as transparent as possible about what is in the bottle so you understand and can appreciate like in a different way what we're putting together. But this is always, of course, as I think of myself as a distiller and not as a blender, but I do both kind of things necessarily. And so this is like an extra level of vulnerability because it is all of the things that we've made in house and then everything that we've blended in house as well.
I know you mentioned these last two are distilled in house.
Yeah.
One is a high rye, one is a rye. So do you have, I'm not familiar with your whole portfolio. Do you have bourbons that are, I guess, not high rye that are distilled in house?
Yes. We do. We have, so like the Grizzly Beast is a bourbon that is very rarely a high rye. I mean, I think it is at max maybe like 15% rye, so or so around there. But we also have a wheated bourbon that is like 30% wheat. And since I've come on, we've done a lot more with the wheat than we have with rye. I've kept our rye program alive 100%, but I've really introduced a lot more into our wheat program. And so we're doing more wheat distillations, more wheat mash bills, all of that stuff. And then with just our general bourbon mash bill, I've split it between slightly higher rye and slightly higher wheat. So we have a much more kind of nuanced and diverse portfolio of mash bills that we pull from, which is that's the biggest, advantage to how we do things is like we're not beholden to one mash bill. We have a lot of freedom and variety in the raw materials that we're using and how we're executing on that. So we do have stuff that's not rye that we make in-house. But I honestly, I think that's probably what we're best known for is our exploration and expression on the rye side.
Yep. And these are delicious. I was just curious because I do like a good wheated. So I figured I'd ask.
Same. I do. I love wheated bourbon. I mean, I love rye whiskey, but honestly, like high rye bourbons is not always what I gravitate towards. I love wheated bourbons. So we're going to be releasing a new wheated bourbon this year. It's called Colonel Armstrong, and that's going to be one of our core lineups. So that will be something that will be every day, and then we're going to be re-releasing what our original wheated bourbon was, which was Screaming Titan, and that we will be re-releasing that in 2027. So we're going to release Colonel Armstrong, which is our everyday wheated bourbon, in 2026, and then like our specialty wheated bourbon in 2027. Yeah.
Great. I will look for that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. No problem. All right. I'm going to talk to you about this last one, and then I'm going to talk to you about something that's not even on this list because I'm so excited about it. I'm curious to hear what you guys' thoughts are on it as a group of, not only enthusiasts, but, spirit intellectuals. You can kind of give me what your point of view is. But the last thing that we have for tasting today is the Van Duzen High Malt. So this is a straight rye whiskey, but it does have a huge portion. It's over 40% malted barley. And so it kind of, this is 001 too. This is like, I don't honestly kind of impossible to find this batch in particular.
Our batch is bottles. Our batch is 002.
Oh, well, the list I got said 001. But hey-oh. That's fine. It's still very high in terms of
32% malted barley and 66% rye.
Yeah, it was higher in the first one.
Boo.
Boo. But I still think that it does share some of the similar flavor profiles. It has kind of like this Mexican hot chocolate flavor to it. So it has like this rich kind of like chocolatey note, but then there's a lot of baking spice in there, like cinnamon and cardamom. And the cardamom can come across a little bit like eucalyptus or menthol, a little bit of that minty note to it. But really a dynamic and interesting product all on its own. And it's the only product that we have that's not named after a redwood tree. So everything else is named after a specific redwood tree. Van Duzen is named after a river that feeds an estuary for the redwood trees. And the bottle on it has an inverse image on it. So if you ever have a bottle of the Van Duzen, if you turn it upside down, it has a different image on it. It's kind of, a little Easter egg for those who know. We're close to Easter, so. But I love this
On
because,
the nose,
oh, go ahead.
it almost talks to me like a wine finished whiskey on the nose. I know you guys don't do that, but that's so interesting.
Yeah. It's just a lot going on with this. You know what I mean? This is like a much more kind of like thought focused flavor profile. I would say out of almost everything that we make, this is the Van Duzen is the one more for people who are like into thinking about whiskey.
Nerds.
You know, like who wants to like sit with it and like have a conversation with your whiskey as you're drinking it? I'd say like this is probably the product that it comes closest to talking back to you.
It's interesting. One of the first picks we did years and years ago was with um, Balcones, and they give 6 wildly different options, and one was a rye aged in a former rye barrel.
Mm.
And this is a much better version of it, but there was a very interesting echoing effect of some of the rye notes that happened because of that. It was very controversial. Some people had at the top, some people had at the bottom, which is why we did not pick it. But that what you're describing as Mexican hot chocolate, which is definitely where I'm feeling the malt play with the rye, is a much better version of what was happening. It's that like an echoing of some of that rye flavor. But I see what you're saying, because that thing was like fucking weird. This is thoughtful. That was weird in a bad way. This is weird in a good way, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. You know, sometimes things can be like overthought, you know what I mean? Or just like the execution hasn't like quite fully completed. And we do have kind of like this tendency to like be very pretentious about like how we're making our blends. Like we would like to think about it, you know what I mean? We like to engage and like really try to like dig down into it. And I think I like the description that you have of like this echoing effect. I really understand and appreciate that 100%. I'm probably going to steal it when I talk about it in the future. But the big difference for me about this product in particular is texture. So I know, you know, we've talked about stuff, how we're experiencing spirits and things like that. When I'm judging, or when I'm, like choosing barrels for blends, the first thing that I judge is an olfactory, because that's like my most precise tool for evaluation. But the second thing is not flavor. The second thing that I like kind of experience and taste and evaluate is texture. Like how does it feel in my mouth? How does it weigh? How does it last? All of that kind of thing. And that's what I think is really special about Van Duzen, is it has this really unique presence in your mouth because of how much weight the malt gives to the texture of the liquid in itself. It like really lasts quite a bit longer on your palate, which means that you taste a lot more of the flavor that it has to offer you. So if it was like a more traditional rye, it would have evaporated much closer to the front of your palate, and you wouldn't necessarily have had the opportunity to taste all of the flavors that are going on in there. But because of that malt structure, you have kind of like a longer time period to fully experience what it's giving you.
Well, but what this has, I was going to say about the 101, and this has the same thing, is that both of them drink at a higher proof than they are, not in their heat, but that you normally need a higher proof to get the flavor and the mouthfeel.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's not the heat of it, but it's still normally you got to go, 110, 115, 120 to get all the oomph, because I want to punch you in the face. And this has like a nice, yeah, the Mexican hot chocolate. I don't know. I wouldn't describe it that way, but I'm seeing what you're calling it. I can't figure out how I would describe it, but that note you're not usually going to get in a 92 proofer. Like, you're normally going to have to go higher for that. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a very unique expression of spirit. You know what I mean? It's not kind of like within your standard expectations when it comes to rye, or certainly not when it comes to like higher malt content spirits. So this is definitely a very different, divergent expression of spirits for sure. Yeah, but a fun one.
I would actually say, shocking everyone, I'm sure, this would be number 7 on my list now. I don't like rye at all. I think this is the 7th one in the 300 and some odd tastings we've done. It's the 7th bottle I would actually consider drinking. The chocolate notes are really kind of fascinating. I mean, it was just like a right off the bat, and then like the little hints of all the other stuff underneath it. This complexity is really nice, and I think I'm a big fan of the malted versions, whether it's barley or malted rye in a rye. I think that's probably why this one hits me so much better. But this is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very different. You know what I mean? When you're drinking a rye whiskey, this is certainly not what your expectation would be. And so sometimes for some people, that's great. And for some people, that's confusing or like not fulfilling, you know? And so for me, I totally get it. People have preferences. Like, I'm not too concerned about that. But what I love about what we're doing is that we're a part of the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, we get to be somebody's counterpoint. We get to be part of this, like, evaluation of spirits as a whole, because it's a different type of approach, a different type of expression, which I love. I love a conversation. I love a debate about like why you like something and how you like it. It's not a judgment on your like skill or what you can detect, but it's like a true, genuine interest on like what you're experiencing, because that's valuable and we're all different. And so it's kind of cool to hear each person's experience with what they're drinking.
I was gonna say that the Ben Duzen is one of those ones where it's really hard to pinpoint what the flavor is, and so it it's a thought-provoking whiskey, if that makes sense. It makes you think about what it is because it's not like most any other whiskey I've had. So it's not my favorite, but it makes me think about it. It challenges me to like, okay, what is that flavor? What is that scent? What is that? It's different, and in a good way.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's why I do these, right? To get something thrown in like this that's different. And I wouldn't go buy a bottle of this right now, but it's great to taste it and explore it.
It just kind of like expands your palate. You know what I mean? Just kind of like creates even more space within, you know, I'm sure you're already considerable understanding of whiskey, but it just gives another point on that map for deeper appreciation and understanding of what people are trying to achieve. But like, it's interesting because for some people, especially for people who have had a harder time with rye whiskey, this tends to be their absolute favorite, like hands down. There's like, this is just so much easier so much more approachable, so much more kind of like within the realm of flavor that they're looking for, that they really gravitate towards it. But for people who are like very familiar with rye whiskey and like rye whiskey, this is a hard thing to kind of like fully be on board with, because it's so different from like what a more traditional rye whiskey might express as. Yeah, good time. Some good stuff that you guys got to taste today. Some interesting things. The Devil's Tower and the Van Duzen are some of the more fun kind of expressions that we have. But we have, you know, quite a few.
I was going to point out, between our first tasting where we could barely put 5 together to now where you have like a dozen on your website, you guys have really come a long way.
We released a significant amount of
How's that for you on the blending side? That's got to be tough.
It's complicated. Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, there's the blending of it, but there's also the available inventory aspect of it, right? So we have like our library of whiskey, but then, what pieces do we pull for what individual blend? And in order to kind of like, again, in an effort to maintain that consistency, it's very hard. It's so complicated, far more complicated than I thought it would be. But I love a puzzle. I didn't realize how much I love that, and it's been fun to kind of do the math and the organizing and the management on that side, but then also just reinforce these blends with the sensory perception aspect of it as well. Because at the end of the day, these are consumables. You know what I mean? Like, you can run things by the number, but like, you want to make sure that they are in alignment with the flavor profiles that you're working towards.
Real quick, you mentioned the haystack needles from last year were your own juice. That, for me to be able to tell, I would just have to look at the back and it would just say distilled in.
I can tell that both of those bottles are distilled by us.
They're both fantastic. I got a
Thank
bourbon
you.
and a rye. I got the bourbon from Can out, the rye from High Proof. I didn't have your own juice. They're fucking excellent. I recommend
you.
You can find them. I recommend them very highly.
The easiest way to tell the difference between what was purchased haystack and what was internally distilled haystack is the actual bottles. The bottles look different.
Gotcha.
So the ones that have the texture like a tree bark texture, those are 100%, distilled in-house. So those are the ones that we've made in-house. And then the other ones are the ones that we've had from MGP. Those are like the 14 and 15 and 12-year-old ones. Gotcha. And a lot of those were secondarily finished either in wine or apple brandy or whatever.
That one K&L has, that's their pick is phenomenal.
It's fantastic. I got the bourbon from K&L and the rye from High Proof, and they're fucking
it's really, really good. I got it on a just because it's also priced really well too. I mean, considering what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, there's been it's been very interesting, you know what I mean, with like barrel picks and like single barrels in the past couple of years. I would say there's been like a big flood of them, and that's never necessarily been a huge aspect of our like company. We've only done like 100 really for the entire company. That's what we did last year, 100 barrels for the entire country. So that's not that many, even for California, which is our #1 market. And so we're doing a little bit more than that this year, but like not significantly. I think we're doing like maybe 120, maybe 150 barrels for the entire country next year. And that's really not that much. Some distilleries, like that's their whole business, you know what I mean, is doing single barrels. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it can be pretty complicated. So it's a fun product for us to be able to release. It really showcases what we're doing on the distillation side. And what happens when you talk about like aging in Northern California specifically, and like how that impacts the final liquid. And I've been very happy with everything that we've sent out. So Jeff and I taste through every single barrel. Every single barrel that gets selected is something that we really believe in, and we really think that represents what we're trying to do and our craft very well. So it's great. I'm glad you guys like it. Do you want to hear about some of the exciting things that are coming, even though we don't have those things in front of us?
Definitely, absolutely. Well,
all right.
So, before you do that, I want to make sure everybody votes in the poll.
Okay.
And I want to get a picture of everyone, and then you can do all the exciting stuff.
Okay.
So while you still have a little bit in your glass, Dr. Mo, welcome back. Matt and Ryan, come join us on video. We have a tradition here where between the 5th and 6th pour, I usually do the picture, but I was having so much fun, I totally forgot. I'm glad there's more to talk about, so we can do this. But I'm going to shut the hell up and say thank you so much. Shut the hell up and say oxymoron. Thank you so much for being here. Cheers to you. Thank you for spending the evening with us. Cheers to everyone who joined us tonight. Raise a glass and smile to the camera. Got it. All right. Thank you.
Pardon me. I'm doing some work. Cheers to y'all.
Cheers. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Amazing presentation. Thank you. I look forward to buying more bottles.
Oh, thank you.
There's more to come. So Lauren, please share with us all the insider stuff you have for us.
So I don't know, has anyone here tasted the toasted yet? Has anyone had it or experienced that? So we're already sold out. It's 100%. Like it's sold through. Absolutely. We don't have any more of it. So it's in market somewhere. But that is one product that you may or may not be able to find. And again, that's kind of the exploration on the cooperage side. So Hungarian, French, and Gariana oak all combined together into a beautiful masterpiece of wood, if I do say so myself. But the next product that we're going to be releasing is called Hyperion, and it is essentially like our like 10-year anniversary, except for we're releasing it on our 11-year anniversary. And yes, it is the tallest tree in the world. And it is a wild blend. So it is a blend of wheat whiskey. It's a blend of rye, bourbon, and single malt. So it has all three different categories. Each category is, the idea is that it's talking a little bit about where we started from. So from the sourcing side of stuff. So there's MGP of each one of those. And then there's also our own distillate of every single category. So there's our own wheat whiskey, there's our own bourbon, our own rye, and then 100% of the single malt that's in the blend is our own distillate. And it is very good. But it is certainly one of those spirits that's like, you want to sit with it and think about it, right? It's not like, let's just drink it and enjoy it. It's definitely like, you got to spend an evening, contemplating the complexities of the universe while drinking this whiskey, which sounds so obnoxious, but it's true. And I have done it. But that's honestly, out of all the products that we're releasing, that's the product I'm probably going to buy like 2 cases of just for myself, because there's nothing, literally nothing in the world that is going to be even close to what this product is. So that was what I was curious about, is if you've heard of another product that kind of combines all those different spirit types in it. And if you've had, I'm fascinated. But the inspiration behind it was Nika in the Barrel. Was kind of just like all of these different pieces that are part of our blending program that we use for a variety of different products that we make, but all of them kind of coming together to make their own entity. And so that was part of the inspiration for this product in particular.
How did you know we just did a deconstruction of Nika from the Barrel with the team from Japan? We just did it. We did, yeah. And we tasted each individual part, pre-aging and post-aging. It was a whole thing.
FYI, the toasted's available at Blackwell's. $50 if you're one of their member of their program. For $100 a year is free shipping, so it's $55.23 all in. I might know that because I just bought a bottle, but I don't know.
Oh my God, I'm jealous about the Nika thing. So perfect timing. So you guys kind of get the idea of what it is. So for next year, for example, the Hyperion release that we'll do for next year won't be even close to what we're releasing this year. So it's going to be drastically different each iteration. So keep that in mind. But the wheat whiskey that's going into it is probably my favorite liquid I've ever tasted of all time. The majority of the wheat whiskey that's going into it is this very, very old MGP wheat whiskey, which is impossible to find. You cannot find MGP 95% wheat, 5% malted barley anywhere. It's just been blended or mixed or whatever, all kinds of crazy stuff. But a large portion of the liquid for this blend is going to be literally the last that we have of it is going to be going into this blend. So sad, but also, for a good cause. So I'm excited about that blend. We've got the Colonel Armstrong coming out, and then we'll do some Haystack as well at the end of this year. And then probably next year we'll start our brandy and whiskey blending products, because we have a fair amount of brandy that we've made as well, and it's about 10 years now. So we're going to start blending, doing some whiskey and brandy blends as well, which I'm very excited about.
Brandy
I
from
love
grapes
brandy.
or fruit brandy?
It's brandy. So we do, the majority of what we have is from grape, but we also have a fair amount of apple brandy, and we also have some Asian pear brandy.
And that's all locally sourced fruit?
Yeah. The apple, I think some of it might be coming down from Washington. Not all of it, I don't think, was coming from California, but some of it was. But I think some of the apple juice was coming down from Washington. It was fermented and then distilled. Yeah, but that's in the far future. The Hyperion is definitely the thing that's going to be the most recent, and that will be relatively available. It's a very small release. I think for the entire country, we're doing, I think it's like 900 cases for the entire country. So it's pretty small in terms of volume. And 2 of those cases are mine. So even less for you.
898 cases for the whole country.
That's right.
That's right.
You figure it out.
Fair enough.
Gotta like hold on to some of that stuff that I really care about. It's something that's very different.
For sure.
But no, we're doing some really fun stuff, and I'm, with whiskey in particular, it can be very rinse and repeat. Like, it's very, the goal tends to be much more about consistency and just the same thing over and over, not only on the production side of things, but also on the product and blending side of things. And so I'm grateful to be a part of a company that's like much more open to like trying different stuff and like different blending, and really excited about some of the riskier, interesting kind of things that we have to offer. Because again, even though they might not be someone's favorite, it really gives a counterbalance to everything that you've experienced and tasted up until this point.
What's the MSRP on the Hyperion, or approximately?
Whoa. I believe my understanding is that it should be on the shelf at $99.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
We really pushed for it to be under $100, like $1 under $100, because it is such a weird combination of things, and I want people to be able to like taste it. So that was really the goal. I don't know how it's going to end up near you, but for us, that's where we're trying to sit it on the shelf at.
Fair.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, only 896 cases available for the whole country.
That's right. Good luck. I'm sure you'll get one if you want one.
I've heard of people who are able to find rare whiskeys. I haven't met them, but I've heard of them. So maybe I'll make friends with them.
Sure. I don't know if I would even consider this a rare whiskey at this point. It hasn't even been released yet.
That's how rare it is.
That's true.
That's Hotels already has it listed at $349, so you never
know. But have you guys heard of other whiskeys of like similar like spirit type blends?
I was buying the bottle when you explained it. Could you just tell me again what is it blending?
Of course.
I was being the toast. I apologize.
It has rye and bourbon in it, but it also has wheat whiskey and single malt whiskey in it.
I've heard of 4-grain bourbons, but like actually blending post distillation, it's not very common in the U.S.
I don't hold me to it, but Dry Fly out of Spokane.
Very well.
That's the one you pointed us to that.
We talked about that the last time I was here.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I had a trial at deposition. I was up there for a while, and they just opened their new distillery. I'm trying to remember because, like, at the distillery, the new one, which is really beautiful, They're really nice guys also because like the tax in Washington is so crazy that I was like, I want to buy it. They're like, where are you from? I was like, California. They're like, nope, go buy in LA. I was like, well, okay, thank you for being honest. But I feel like they had some blends and stuff, but I don't think it was quite like that at all.
I mean, I'm pretty familiar with their lineup. I don't know if they do any like spirit category blending.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
totally.
Like they,
Yeah.
so I don't know about that. I think the closest thing that I can think of off the top of my head is Virginia Distilling, which they do I think it's like Scotch, like sourced Scotch and rye blend. I know that they do one of those. They might do a few others
Yeah,
that
I
are
think they
similar to
do
that.
source scotch and their own single malt.
Yeah.
They don't do any rye. They only do malt in house.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, but I can't think of literally anybody else who does this
I I
type of.
know of one brand that does Calvados, Armagnac, and bourbon together.
Sure. Yeah.
But they're not making any of it. It's everything sourced. So that's
Right. Right. So yeah, I can't think of any. I mean, I can't think of anybody else who's doing this, and maybe they're not doing it because it's not a good idea. But I don't think that that's true because I've tasted it. We're harvesting it. We did like our initial samples and our initial taste through a couple months ago, but we're going to be harvesting it next week. So that means like pulling everything out of the barrel into tank. We won't be bottling it for like another month or so, but we like, especially for these like special, very intricate blends, excuse me, we like to let them sit into tank for at least a month to kind of undergo that attenuation process so that they get that like full molecular kind of like integration and a different marrying of flavors and chemical interactions than you would if you just like blend it, mix it, and then stick it into a bottle immediately.
Oh, I will tell you, we all learned from Nika that 3 months of marriage makes a huge difference.
God, I love Nika. So I actually lived in Japan for 4 years, and I was right next to the Nika distillery. And that's pretty much part of the reason why I got into distillation. I'll never forget. I was teaching a class on gin distillation. I was teaching about how to do gin at the ADI conference, and the master distiller from Nika, like Nika Gin, which is, in my opinion, the best gin in all of existence. It's expensive, very expensive, but it's very good. Was there. And because I speak Japanese, he came up to me and he was talking to me, and I was like, "Why are you here? Like, I'm so embarrassed that I'm presenting to you right now. Like, this is ridiculous." And he was like, "We're just checking things out. We're just getting like a vibe check on the rest of the industry." This was a couple of years ago, but like, Nika for me, in particular, the gin side of things. I mean, I think the whiskey is great as well, but like their gin is exceptional. So
Nika gin's $35 a bottle. It's not that expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the last time I bought a bottle, it was like $50. Maybe it's just been a while since I've bought a bottle. Maybe they've lowered their prices. I don't know. The coffee gin.
Yeah, Nika coffee gin. 35.
Well, you should all buy it then because it's very good. Highly recommend.
Even their vodka is very good too. That's crazy.
Their vodka is very good, but the gin is better. I think significantly better. It's just it's just like so balanced and so subtle and so delicious. I don't know. I shouldn't be repping their brand right now, but I'm a huge fan.
I'm gonna start sending you invites to our fun events. I think you.
I thought you were gonna do that last time. I was like, how do I get?
You gotta follow us. Join our Facebook group. Follow us on Eventbrite. I don't know.
That's the issue. Is I like don't do anything on social media. So.
Eventbrite. Just follow the Eventbrite page. That's it.
Okay.
I don't do newsletters. I ain't got time for that. But Eventbrite, you'll see it. You got an email as soon as it's posted. Since you like gin, and you are in Northern California. We did a gin tasting with St. George. I'm sure you know St. George.
I know them very well.
Okay.
I know all of their distillers. I know Dave. I know Lance. I know everybody who works there very well.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Was it Dave who did it?
Yeah, it was Dave.
Yeah. We've done many presentations together.
He's great. I love him. He's
He is
fantastic.
such
And
a sweetheart, 100%. Just a good guy.
I try to get him in to do a tasting, and he's like, "Let's do gin." I'm like, "Nobody has 6 versions of gin." He goes, "I do."
I
He's
know.
like, "What the hell?" He put everyone I talked to, they're like, "No, they have 4. They don't have 6." I was like, "Yeah, we got 2 R&D samples that he
Sure.
sent us."
Curious. I'd be curious. I've tasted, I think their most recent gin is the Valley gin. Is that right? The citrus, the orange, like Valencia orange one, and then whatever else they've got going on. But my thing, honestly, my favorite thing that they make is the shochu that they make because I lived in Japan for so long. I love shochu. So it's like one of the few places that you can get it from the United States.
We may or may not be doing a Japanese spirit tasting next week.
What? Which brand?
Fukano?
I don't know it.
Well, maybe you should sign up and join us. Their master blender is going to be on the call with us at this exact same time a week from today. And they are a rice and malt based spirit.
Very cool.
Made in Japan.
All right. Sounds like a date.
All right, perfect. All of you are uninvited. It's just me and Lauren. All right, I'm just gonna delete everybody else's reservations.
Oh no, that sounds so fun. I love tasting stuff.
Jane reminded me that it's not just me here. We did a poll for people's favorite pour of the night. Do you want to guess on what you think was the favorite of the night?
No.
Come on, you got to pick one. What do you think, based on how well you know our palates, what do you think was our favorite of the night?
I would say probably either the Devil's Tower or Emerald Giant.
Okay, it's a good guess. Oh God, Jane's mean. All right, the results are in, and Pipe Dream 101 took first place.
Honestly, I forgot that you guys tasted that.
It was so good. Even I thought it was my favorite. And I'll go malt, then rye, then bourbon. Very well done.
Thank you. That is truly the distiller select. So I'm glad that it went through that way for sure.
Yeah, Pipe Dream 101 took first place. Devil's Tower took second, and then votes for Emerald Giant, Lost Monarch, and Van Duzen all across the board.
All the same.
But it's so hard. It's Pipe Dream 101 versus Pipe Dream is not a fair fight. Pipe Dream is great, but not when you put them side by side.
You know, it's interesting because I've definitely heard people who say that they prefer Pipe Dream to Pipe Dream 101.
Wow.
You know.
Those people are wrong.
I agree. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I don't think that, I mean, you got to trust your own palate 100%, but it's fascinating. I mean, you get to hear it all. When you're pouring spirits for people, you literally get to hear unfiltered response to the things that you create and the babies that you are care for so diligently. And I'm always surprised, but it's quite often that I hear that people like the Pipe Dream over the Pipe Dream 101. So I'm glad you guys have chosen correctly and chosen the Pipe Dream 101. Actually, you know, it's funny you mentioned St. George. I'm going to see them tomorrow. I'm going to see Dave tomorrow. I'm doing the Alameda Whiskey Stroll, and they'll be down there. So I'll be.
Please give him our love. Tell him we said hello. We're looking forward to it.
Of course I will.
We're going to be featuring him at the end of April for a deep dive into his single malt. So that's going to be a nerdy session. We're tasting 6 expressions of single malt from him.
Since you're going to be in Alameda, are you going to go visit the greatest university in the history of the world?
The greatest what?
University in the history of the world?
It's not in Alameda, though.
It's in Alameda County.
What's the greatest? What is that?
University of California, Berkeley.
Go Bears!
Oh.
It's
not there. It's
Berkeley mentioned in the Constitution of California.
Yeah, it's not anywhere near where I'm going to be, but yes.
Make a special trip. Just soak in the genius.
Mm-hmm.
Get back.
Yeah.
Brendan knows about that.
I did a fair amount of schooling at UC Berkeley.
Like schooling people or being schooled, or a little both?
Being schooled. I did 2 of their like summer intensive programs for Japanese language. So, but yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. Nihongo shabarimasu ka? Anybody speak Japanese?
Zenzen wakarimasen.
Whoa! I mean, you did a little bit because you responded.
I lived there for a bit. I've been, yeah, I don't speak that much, but yeah.
Omakase, please. Thank you.
Oh, there you go. There you go. It's not bad. I'm so shocked by the amount of Japanese being spoken right now.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Oh, very good. How about oyasumi nasai? Does anyone know what that means? That means good night. Or jane, which is like the kind of fun and friendly way to say like peace out. You know what I mean?
Some of our members are actually in Japan right now sending amazing photos from their 7-Eleven being way better than our 7-Eleven.
That is true. Hands down.
Their 7-Eleven bought our 7-Eleven, so we're going to be getting more and more of their stuff.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing that you guys may or may not have seen is, does anyone know what maruhi is? Has anyone seen it?
Mm-mm.
So my favorite drink when I was living in Japan was called chuhai, which is just like it's like LaCroix with alcohol in it. You know what I mean? Very easy drinking, very light. They have since rebranded it and brought it to the United States, and it's called maruhi. And I haven't been able to find it anywhere in California except for every single movie theater I've ever been in California now has maruhi as like their alcoholic beverage that they have on site. And
is it like
go ahead.
It's like a Korean, it's like a sparkling nigori,
it's not that fancy.
I'm trying to Google it. How do you spell it?
So maru is M-A-R-U, and maru means like perfect, right? Circle. And then he is H-I, and that's just the alcohol part of it. So like perfect alcohol is kind of like what the name roughly translates as.
Oh, so it's like a Japanese White Claw, essentially?
That's exactly what it is. It's Japanese White Claw. It is so crushable, so drinkable. So next week, literally on Sunday, I'm going and doing a spirits judging for the entire week. So I'm judging spirits all next week. And usually I'm on like gin or whiskey, but because we've entered so many things into this judging from Redwood Empire, I'm actually going to be judging all the RTDs this year, which I'm really excited about. It should be super fun. And it's always just like so different. Like the flavor profiles are drastically different, like the expressions, approaches, all that kind of stuff. So it should be pretty fun.
A fun fact about White Claw is that there was no COVID before White Claw. Just saying.
Interesting.
Not saying it's cause.
Conspiracy theory? It's White Claw's fault. Yeah, fair enough. Oh, is it maruhi is a total wine? Good to know. I mean, I'm not saying it's like the best thing you've ever tasted in the world, but it's like pretty crushable. It's pretty delicious.
Nostalgia for you, for sure.
It is. It's very nostalgic for me, 100%. Yeah. It's like quenches your thirst.
For sure.
Awesome.
All right. Well, while we still have you, I still have to do the raffle because Elliot was nice enough to provide a couple of those cocktail kits for us. So we're excited. We're gonna run it 3 times. I think we got a nice group here. I can do it off recording, on recording. Is there any questions that we want to say for the recording, or else I'll call it a night and then we do the raffle and we just hang out?
That works.
Questions for Lauren while we still got her? Questions about Redwood Empire? Anything coming out? Anything in the past?
I want to ask one quick question. I don't want to belabor this whole night, but Lauren, you mentioned we were talking about wine casks or wine barrels and finishing, and I think your bio said you come from a winemaker's background. Is it Patz and Hall by any chance?
It is. Yeah.
So you must have access to wine barrels, right?
Yeah.
So is it, so what's the reason you wouldn't consider it, I guess?
I think that in the future we will do some wine finishes. I think it was really important for us to put our own product out and really get some either familiarity or recognition or whatever for the liquid, just the core liquid that we're doing. I find that finishes are sometimes a band-aid over not, well aged or well distilled spirit. Not all the time, but for a lot of the time, or they're just an excuse to charge more money per the barrel. It's not really enhancing the overall product. It's just another thing. And so when we do it, which I'm positive that we will, I want it to be very, like everything that we do, very thoughtful, very intentional, and kind of like part of the plan as opposed to just kind of like doing it because we have access or because we know we can make some money off of it.
Yep.
So it'll happen,
Yeah.
but
And that makes total sense. I just had to ask. I mean, I've been a wine drinker my whole life. That is my first passion. I've only just recently gotten to bourbon. I have so many bottles of wine and so many bottles of California Pinot. So it just seemed like, but I've yet, in my bourbon experience, I've yet to have a bourbon finished in wine cask. So I don't even know what that tastes like. But I had to ask since you were here. So,
of course, yeah, there's some interesting options in that category for sure. But I think we're actually going to be giving some barrels to another winery, and they're going to finish their wine in our bourbon casks. But it will happen for sure. We'll do some. I've been really trying to find, there's a couple of like dessert wines in the Napa Valley that I've really been wanting to get their barrels because, I mean, honestly, anything with sugar in it plus whiskey tastes incredible. So that's more of where my interests lie. It is very hard to execute wine finishes well, especially with like barrel health. We're lucky because we're close by, so we don't have to worry so much about sulfuring or about acetic acid if it's not sulfured. So we can get it in pretty quickly, so we don't have to worry about like two of the big danger factors there. But it's tricky. I mean, wine flavors and bourbon flavors aren't necessarily like a natural fit with each other.
Agreed.
Yeah. It can be tricky. But good question.
Can I ask a question as well?
Sure.
Hey, thank you. Are you interested in doing any alternative grains or outside of the big three?
Totally. We do triticale every year.
Interesting.
Yes, and I've worked with spelt quite a bit as well. And I've always wanted to do something with amaranth, but it's very pricey. It's very pricey, and so like I have to like really get people on board for the amaranth distillate. But and then also oats. We do some oat stuff as well.
Yeah, oat and millet seems like an easy sell, fairly cheap.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It is cheap. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
I only know of one brand that's done like a buckwheat whiskey. That's a
good Cobal. Who is it?
Yeah, it might have been them, or it might have been
Corsair. It's either Corsair or Cobal. I mean, they're the ones that really do all the random stuff.
Yeah.
No, they did Pumpernickel.
Pumpernickel is a good one. Yeah.
Nice.
What's a grain that you're playing with now that you're super excited about? You put us on triticale. You're the first one to break the news to us that it's a thing and it exists.
That's a thing. I mean, I'm still on triticale. Like, I love that grain.
That's old news.
Okay. I'm glad it doesn't always have to be new. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like a reinforcing of how good it is.
And for those of us, by the way, for those in the room who have never heard of triticale, please explain what it is.
Triticale is a hybrid grain of wheat and rye. Not a hybrid as in terms of like genetic engineering, but of like old school grafting. type of vibe to it. And the concept behind it was that it would have the like hardiness of rye in terms of the plant, but it would have the abundance of wheat in terms of production and seeds. And it's just like an incredible flavor profile. I love everything that has to do with triticale. We've done some playing around with different heritage corn stuff. So we've done some purple corn. We've of course done some bloody butcher. We've just played around in that sphere. But to be honest, I'm much more interested in playing around with different wheat varietals. So again, that's like spelt, einkorn, like that kind of thing. I'm much more interested, emmer as well. Some of these ancient grains I'm more interested in playing around with, and there are a few places in California that do grow them, and so we'll see if that actually happens. But in terms of grain, that's kind of where I'm at. I would love my two top dreams. Like the reason why I got into distilling is one, I want to make an umeshu because that is truly the reason why I'm in spirits and not in wine, is because I love umeshu. And then the second is I really, really want to make a pommeau. So pommeau, for those of you that might not be familiar, pommeau is a fortified apple cider. So you do a apple brandy distillate, and similar to like port, you add the apple brandy in to kind of stop fermentation, so it has a sweetness and like a very apple forward flavor to it. And where we're at in California is one of the few places that grows like cider apples. So Gravenstein apples are for cider making, and they're just not really grown. Cider apples in general just like don't really grow that much in the United States. So those are my two big wishes. That and pastis. I love licorice. So I understand that I might be on a limb by myself with that one, but none of that is whiskey. So we'll see how it shakes out. We did do a nocino this year, and we also did a coffee whiskey, flavored whiskey that we're going to be releasing in very small amounts out of the tasting room in the distillery. That's it.
I was trying to complain about your love for licorice, and I couldn't figure out how to spell it, so I just forgot about it in the chat. I may have a bottle of pommeau finished whiskey in my collection.
Delicious.
I haven't tried it yet, so you'll have to come and give me a reason to crack it.
I had a friend who was in the JET program in Mori, Japan, and he backed some apple brandy from there in that little town, because I guess they're known for their apple festivals. But it was interesting.
I was in the JET program, and I was not too far from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's very cool. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening to me talk about all the things that I like to drink and or make.
Thank you so much. This has been absolutely spectacular. This is so much fun. You clearly have a passion for this. We loved every second of it. We're excited to have you on next time. Hopefully we don't have to wait 2 years, because with so many expressions, we can do more of these more often. But yeah.
You know what you should do? You should do a field trip up here and come visit St. George and us, because we're like very close to each other geographically.
You're not wrong. I think we're going to make that happen. We have a field trip coming up in August to go to the Pacific Northwest. We're going to do a blending lab up there with who was talking about wine finished bourbon. We're going to be drinking a lot of finished whiskeys up there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Nice. So that's going to be a trial run. And yeah, I think NorCal is going to be is the one I've been talking about for such a long time, because there's the maltings out. There's Admiral Maltings. There's St. George. There's you. For a long time in downtown San Francisco, there was a distillery which they just shut down, sadly.
Hodling.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm good friends with the importers. So, but yeah, so
Oh, okay.
they're the ones that own it.
There's a lot up here. There's a lot of littler distilleries up here, but
Well, let's talk. We'll. I just need a couple of anchor points, and we can plan a weekend because that's a weekend trip.
yeah,
Okay. All right. Sounds like you just volunteered to
I
help
did.
plan it. All right. Perfect.
Did.
All right. We're gonna
I
have
love
more.
planning. I love. So happy to help.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We will hold you to it. That's how Doc Swinson got signed up into helping me plan the Pacific Northwest trip. Is
Perfect.
they offered it on a recording. I was like, "You remember the thing you said?" And we had it recorded. All right,
Sure.
this is happening. Now it's on. Show of hands. Who's going to go in the NorCal trip? Yeah, there we go. We got at least two. For Jordan, we can go to Berkeley. We can make a side hustle to Berkeley for just like lunch.
You see where I was born and where I went to college. One trip.
Perfect.
Awesome.
The birthplace of Jordan.
Okay.
The trip is going to be called Visiting the Birthplace of Jordan, and then we also visit distilleries.
We'll just hang out at Alta Bates Hospital, see what happens. It should be safe.
Awesome. So thank you so much. We look forward to having you back in virtual and also in person. And that concludes our tasting. Thank you.
Cheers.